How are you? I can't hear you.
I know I got it.
Good evening. Welcome to the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of June 13th, 2017, 5:30. We have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. Is there a minister or reverend in the house? I see none. If you will join me in a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item on the agenda is approval of minutes for May 9th, 2017, CRA. I have a motion to that effect.
Move to approve the minutes.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Additions, deletions, corrections? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed, like sign? Passes unanimously. There are no special recognitions or presentation, sir?
No, sir.
Old business property information on 415 and 419 Washington Avenue, Westland Marine Upland Parcel. Mr. Director.
The CRA board voted at the 11th of April CRA meeting for staff to provide information on the Westland Marina Upland property located at 415 and 419 North Washington Avenue at their May 9th CRA meeting. The information was to include zoning, availability, price, worth of the property, etc. The item was tabled by the agency, at the 9 May 2017 CRA meeting per the request of member Leedy, who was unable to attend that meeting. Attached to the board's information is an analysis of the property that includes partial information, zoning information, the Brevard County Property Appraiser's information. The property is not publicly listed for sale. Staff called the marina office and was told by the property that the property owner was not interested in selling, and that as far as they knew, the property was not for sale.
Okay, I think that takes care of that situation. I don't see any further action on that. New business.
What?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'd like to discuss that.
Okay.
That's why I had it. I was thinking driving up here tonight what I could do to convince or talk about this parcel. One of the things that's missing from the report is what the property's worth. And I understand that that's problematic to know. It's obviously in the eyes of the seller what the property's worth. But I'd like to just take a couple minutes and then you can move on, because members of the city council are here, and this whole idea that I have about this parcel probably would involve the city. And the only way I could think about how I could maybe make my point, actually it's nice to see Greg in the audience over there because economic development. But I'll make this very quickly, and I hope you guys bear with me just for historical perspective, and I know Walt knows this, but years ago, I had a developer came to town, and he wanted to look at the Miracle Mall. And I took him to it, and there was another one that wanted to look at it also. And subsequent to that meeting, I got a call from Robin Fisher and asked me what I thought about it and what I thought about a development there and so on and so forth. And I told him that what was coming up was the International Council of Shopping Centers convention in Orlando. Would he like to go? And he said, oh, yeah. So over we went, and I introduced him to 2 or 3 developers. And the rest is history. You know what we got now. If you look at Facebook, it's the greatest thing in North Brevard County. It's a development that's working. And Robin took that ball and ran with it. I see something similar. If you guys see this picture, this is private property in between public property. I don't know what to suggest to you guys to say, where do you want to go from here? But just looking at this and knowing other things that might be going on around it that I'm not going to disclose publicly, it just seems to me that we just shouldn't kiss it off. One of the things that we've done very well by the city staff and our executive is our bikes and trails. But there's more to Titusville than bikes and trails. It's also, quote, a little bit of a port. And we've got a river. And we have a lot of boating on that river. And if you look around, boats like to stop where there's nice restaurants and activity and services. And they spend a lot of money and they come into our city. So, having said all that, trying to use the example of the mall and how one individual, in this case Robin, took it and ran with it and produced, I can remember that audience years ago, before the Miracle Mall was, Titus Landing was just in its development. Walt can remember too. People getting up, oh, we can't buy it, we can't afford it, it's not worth it, we can't do anything. Negative, negative, negative. And I just think, I don't know how we do it, but I think that we need to take another step with this property and find out, either through the city or through legal counsel or outside legal counsel, who possibly, I believe, who represents these people. Are they willing to sell it? How much it would be worth? And get one more step on this thing. And have a vision 10 or so years down the road, what we can do with that. And I, again, because if we're going to be doing some work out at Sand Point, and we've got now the ball fields, it just seems to me that we should look at it, and that's my argument. The other thing I'll say to you, it's another example, but I also have you look at your packet and see what can be built there. And as a city council, you can't change that. There's a lot of things that I don't think is highest and best use, but could be very well built there. And so that's about all I have to say. I don't know what your pleasure is, but if it doesn't go past this council, I can't get it to go any further. So,
If you don't mind, I want to answer some of what he said. I don't know what the owners would sell it for, but I know what it's on the tax rolls for, and that's less than $2 million, $1.5 million, something like that. But I did look up what the last sale on that property was in 2005 or 6, somewhere in there. Yeah, it was $6.7 million, so that can give you somewhat of an idea of probably what the owners would consider the base price on it. Up or down from there, I have no idea, but I'm saying that's something to show you what the worth was then. It doesn't necessarily reflect now, but I think it's a lot more than what the tax rolls show. So we got to consider that. And, I hear what you're saying, and there's some validity to it, but we do have a lot going on right now, and to take on another project of potentially that size or that worth would be real hard to do right now. So I'm not saying totally discard it. I'm saying it probably needs to be on a back burner, in my opinion. But Jolene?
I was thinking at least it would be interesting to have a conversation with the owners and find out what they wanted for it. Because Kurt is right, and that would be an absolutely cool piece of property for the city to have and develop. Mm-hmm. Many years ago, I looked at the plans for that the city had drawn up for that area with a connecting walkway going from Sandpoint through the marina, along the marina over to what I think at that time was the dog park. And it was rather cool looking with apartments, restaurants. Could be an interesting project, and I don't think it would hurt us to at least have a conversation. As Dad used to say, conversation is cheap. Go ahead and talk and at least find out what's going on.
You have some background in that piece of property, don't you?
I have some background
I
in
just
that
thought
piece of
about
property.
Understood.
But it would be interesting to at least find out what's going on.
And certainly, you're correct, both of you, that we can find out more information on it. But if it's anywhere near the value that it was sold for the last time, it would require bonding, and it would basically take everything that we have coming in here for the next 20 years.
Yeah. And,
So there are...
realizing that we just
But
did
there's
that
no
for them.
harm in finding out. I don't know who we would deal with.
Yes, we tried to reach out to the owner, and they said that they're not interested in selling.
I'll be glad to go by and
Okay, sir.
talk to them. I think I know who the owner is, although he unfortunately passed away last year. The gentleman who was living in Titusville at that time and was the head of the corporation. But I can maybe find out a little more information. I'll be glad to do that. Okay?
Yeah, I was going to say I'd be glad to do it too. I mean, that's my background. I could.
I don't know if you'd have the entree, though, that I have, because I can...
Well, I got the entree through the lawyer, so.
You want to do it? Go ahead. See how it works out for you.
But I want to. I can talk offline with you.
No, you
about
can't.
that. Well, no. Who goes and sees the owner? Can't we?
No.
Oh.
No. It's called Sunshine Law.
Okay, that's right. Well, I'd like to hear the rest of them.
Right here, we can make an agreement. If you want to go do it, go ahead.
I'll
If
go
you're
do it.
successful, that's
I'll go
great.
do it
If
and see
not,
what
I'll-
we can do.
All right. If you're not successful, I can always take a
Right.
shot at it. Okay, we have
But-
attorney. Is that you, sir? No, that's me. I'm sorry. I'm looking.
Next meeting to do.
There it is. I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. Go ahead, please, Chris.
Yes, you want a restaurant there. Right now, it's a dry dock. And I'd love to know for certain where from the north to the south, where the other dry docks. So are we going to leave our boaters literally high and dry without having a place to be able to pull their boats out? Talk to the owner. Maybe they'd like to open up a restaurant. I'm not so sure we need to go in the restaurant business. That can
Been
go
there, done that,
different
by the
ways.
way. You don't-
I know. So that might be a wonderful thing. I just think that there's uses for that property that are perfectly legitimate at this point. And we have some restaurants that have opened up in the downtown. I think it'd be a wonderful thing if somebody would develop the old Big Apple Plaza. I've been here too long, I know. It used to be I don't know what it was when it finally got taken down. There was a Belk Lindsay there 100 years ago. But that area right now tends to be a place where the big rigs park their stuff. That would be a wonderful place to develop. And they could go with some high rises and all that, and you still got your what the boaters need. And the boaters really need that dry dock. So I don't know that I would be all that excited about becoming a landlord for a restaurant. But that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
Member Diesel.
Yeah, I tend to agree down there. I said the last time this was brought up, I admire thinking outside the box. I don't like to be the land of no, but I also feel that that's a great thing to perhaps see what the private sector is interested in. I realize it could be a great future gamble, or gamble may not be the right word, investment, but at the same time,
According to whether
might be
you
a
win or
gamble.
lose.
But at the same time, I don't really feel like in the meetings that we've had and the open forums about what we want and the objectives that we put down as a city, it was go find some property and buy it for $6 million and develop it. What we did talk about was a civic center. And we talked about some of those things. And we have some things on the goals and the objectives that are already possibly big-ticket items. And for us to go out and try to find more big-ticket items like $6 million pieces of property, I'm not jumping up and down.
I might point out, to my recollection, that what it was bought for in 2005, I guess it was for a condominium with boat slips. So, and that was the highest and best use. It probably is at this time, too.
Right, and that's going to have a restaurant also. It's going to be about 89 stories, something like that, with a restaurant. So,
I can't recognize you because you didn't.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Punch your button in a second. Anything else, Member Diesel? Member Nelson?
I agree with you in that we do need a place for dry dock. Very familiar with that marina for many years of hanging out there. So we do need a dry dock, and that place is basically full all winter. It's unbelievable the number of people that they could pack in there. On the other hand, it would be nice to see a restaurant in there and at least think about what it could be, and maybe a conversation would spur them on to cleaning up. It's cleaned up. It's much better than it used to be. But maybe adding a restaurant, adding additional facilities in there. So that's sort of what I'm hoping for.
Member Leedy?
Yeah, I'm smiling because between two members that have commented, we're already designing it, so that's great. The vision that I was thinking, to make myself clear, I would not be in favor of the city being a landlord for a restaurant. My thoughts on this property, if it was available, and for you guys to use your imagination a little bit, is that we find a public-private partnership. We take the property, you can land lease it to a developer for 99 years, let him deal with tenants under some kind of design that we'd like to see as a city. In terms of the dry dock, that's just an example. I don't know if that's could happen or not. You got West Marine there. I'm sure they've got a lease on that property for right now so, I mean, you've got all sorts of hurdles. In terms of the dry dock, as I was mentioning to you last time we talked about this, being from Seattle, there's many facilities like this in Seattle with the lakes and tied into Puget Sound and all sorts of things, where they have restaurants, they have not just restaurants, but kind of the bars and that kind of stuff, but they also have West Marine would be a great use for it, maybe a smaller one because boaters are always looking for products. You'd have a grocery store. Yeah, there's all sorts of things you could probably come up with. In terms of the dry dock, and you guys are going to say, oh, no, you can't do that, and you're going to give me all sorts of reasons. But I know I'm familiar with one facility up in Seattle where they lift the boats just like they do there out of the water. The dry dock can be across the street. They don't lift that many boats out. If you can stop traffic where they take that boat across the street and somebody builds a dry dock there, you have a facility. So, I mean, there's many ways of getting around it. It's just the idea, you guys, I'm trying to talk about. It's the idea of public ownership of property, of private property between two public parcels. And we don't know if it's 6 million or 16 million. I have no idea. And it may not be worth it, and it may, oh my gosh, we can get it for that, because I think there was a foreclosure on it. So, and I've also kind of been told that potentially the bank still owns it. So, or the owner is but I don't know that, and I don't want to say public because I'm not sure, but that's what I've been told. So I'm just saying, let's just find out if there's any truth to 6 million or 16 or 2 or whatever, and then I'm sure, and I feel confident, Dan, there's going to be just more, if it becomes more palatable to you guys. I mean, there's going to be discussions of the city council. I mean, is it the city? Is it the CRA? Who is doing
Kurt.
what? And, all of that stuff.
We get it.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I have a question. Are you through?
Yep.
Yeah. For the city attorney, is there any issue with Member Leedy going and exploring the property?
There's not an issue if you'd like to speak with the owner and just find out if they're interested in selling, but you should not convey that the CRA is looking at purchasing this property in any way, or the council, because that is not the direction. That there's been no vote, there's no consensus, there's no direction to go there. Merely if you'd like to speak to the owner and find out some more information about the property to report back to council, but you cannot tell them you're acting on behalf of the CRA because they're interested in any kind of purchase or anything else.
Okay? It's in your hands. New business, notice of local historic designation for Hill Hotel Apartments at 422 Julia Street. Mr. City Manager.
The owners of the property located at 422 Julia Street, Schuler Trust, are requesting that their building be designated onto the city's historic registry of places. The Historic Preservation Board will hold a public meeting to consider the request later this year after the request has been reviewed and accepted by the city's Historic Preservation Officer. Pursuant to Section 29117D3 of the LDRs, notification of such request shall be furnished to the Community Redevelopment Agency. The CRA must submit comments or make recommendations to the HPB concerning the designation prior to the date of the public hearing. And staff's recommendation is to accept the historic nomination application HB number 2-2017 to nominate the Hill Hotel Apartments at 422 Julia Street onto the city's Register of Local Historic Places. This is an information item only pursuant to Section 29117D3 of the city's LDRs.
So we need to take no action on that?
That's correct, sir.
All right, next item. Commercial interior building renovation grant for property located at 300 to 310 South Washington Avenue.
Attached for board's review is an application for commercial interior building renovation grant for Barry Hamilton, Bear Rose, Titusville, LLC, to assist in the renovation of the buildings located at 300 and 310 South Washington Avenue in the downtown historic district. The buildings involved are the Pamela Myers Realty Building, the old First Federal Savings and Loan Building, and Cafe Chocolate Building. Per the project summary, the applicant is proposing to purchase and renovate the buildings into mixed use of commercial and residential uses, including a ground floor retail, the applicant's business office, and a boutique-style apartments. The closing date of this transaction is scheduled for 10 July 2017. We recommend that the board approve a commercial interior building renovation grant in the amount of $50,000 to Barry Hamilton, Bear Rose, Titusville, LLC, with the condition that the grant is contingent upon the applicant acquiring the property and obtaining the proper insurance on the property.
Thank you. I just want to comment that the people who are looking at buying this, it will take quite a bit of money to redo the programs, and this money that we're looking at is really a drop in the bucket just to encourage them to do that and give them some participation by the city and the CRA. So any discussion, anyone?
I believe we have a card on this one.
Yes, Greg Weiner.
Thank you. Good evening, Greg Weiner with the EDC in Rockledge. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the project. It will also create about 20 jobs. It was really a great project on many levels. It was a team effort between the EDC, members of city staff, North Brevard Economic Development Zone, to execute on a lead that actually came from, believe it or not, KSC.
So it had a very interesting heritage. The project's going to make a great contribution to downtown. I think you all know that. But what I really wanted to point out is the vibrancy of what's going on in Titusville is really beginning to click, and I don't know that it's always visible. We first met the client originally at the co-launch space, which he loved. He's from another state, and where he is got a downtown. He just thought that was really cool. He loved the Bricks project. We took him out to lunch at Quam's schoolhouse as part of his site tour. And really, that synergy is important. I think what it helped to do was take the business case and meld it with an emotional commitment to do something big downtown, and this is big, as you know. So needless to say, we're supportive of the CRA grant request. We look forward to working with all of you to continue to make things happen in Titusville. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, nothing more on that. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, petitions and requests from the public?
Yes, sir, we'll need a motion and a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is, yes, all right. Do I have a motion to the effect? Grant? You want to?
I'd move to recommend the approval of the award of a commercial interior building renovation grant in the amount of $50,000 to Barry Hamilton, Bear Rose, Titusville, LLC.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Petitions and requests from the public present. He's leaving, Charlie. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Charlie Mars. I'm with the Spacewalk of the American. Just in time. This is my cohort. This is my credibility here. So the two of us are here for a request. I think all of you are familiar with the monuments that belong to the city in Spaceview Park. Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Shuttle. We feel quite proud of those. I know that most of the city is. I'm sure all of the council. We, as you know, honor not just the astronauts who we put in space and mostly brought back, but we honor the men and women who were a part of that, who put them there and brought them back. So the monuments themselves reflect the patch that that particular program represented, which is the Mercury 2, or the Mercury 7, the Gemini 2, the Apollo 3, and the pylons on both the Apollo and the shuttle are where the names of the individuals are. On Mercury, they're along the brick base, and on Gemini, they're on the big black granite. I'm sure all of you have been there. If not, please go. This is, in our opinion, and many folks who've been here, one of the real highlights of Titusville. When you look around at what is there to look at here, well, there's the river, and then there's our monuments. A lot of the things that are advertised by the city and by other businesses around have pictures of those monuments. So from the standpoint of a real addition to the city, the council many times are to be applauded for their support. It's not just us, it's not just the county. The city has on many occasions stepped up and helped us financially with those. We're here today to request a $10,000 investment by the city in the city to add another pylon to the shuttle monument. Each of those pylons has 144 names. I think we've got about 8 pylons there now. 8, 9?
I think it's 8 and they're full.
8, all full. And we have a number, 20 or so names waiting. So our request is for the city to invest another $10,000 in another pylon, which we will continue to accept names and engrave those names and put them there when they become available. Anything else?
You might stay there for a minute. At this point, that would be something, if we consider it, would be on next year's budget, is that correct? Okay, so you're aware of that. I mean, you understand it wouldn't be tomorrow we're writing out checks or anything. Okay.
As long as we know it's there, we can tell the people now when we can do it.
Okay. Well, we won't know it's there until we get through with the next year's budget.
I have confidence in you.
Thank you, Charlie.
You've always come through before, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate the good words. We'll see what happens this time. Is there any discussion on this? I see no lights. Do we want to look at this in the next budget? Okay. Do we need a motion on that? No?
That's right. We'll take this as advisability to bring this back to the CRA during the budget bill
So
process.
Let me
as
put
one
it
of
the other way
items that
around.
we'd like to see.
Is there anybody that's against looking for it? I see no one, so we'll go with that. See, it's getting better already.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Anybody else from the public that would like to speak? I see no one, so Executive Director's report.
Yes, sir, no action items, and we have the capital projects in the downtown for consideration. And as you know, we opened the Sandpoint Splash Park on Saturday at 10 o'clock. We had a great turnout, and I was over there today before lunch, and I counted 11 vans worth of children there. So it's being well used, and I think it's a great addition to our Sandpoint Park. Subject to your question, that completes our briefing, and we do have the spreadsheet of the ongoing downtown projects in the back of your packet.
Any questions? Member Leedy.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how things were coming along with or how we left it with the idea of the parking lot where the railroad property.
We're kind of at an impasse. They came back with some that was probably not too reasonable of what they wanted to be able to take it away with 30 days notice, wanted $7,000 approximately, and we're not willing to give anything up, anything less than that amount, and so we kind of like left it at that.
So you're in corners right now, just staring at each other, huh?
Well, right, they're not willing to budge, and I don't think they are or will, being that they don't really care if they make any money on it at all. So.
Nice position. You don't care if you make any money on it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Basically, the gentleman said, they're the railroad, and they don't really care one way or the other.
But we can tell them to keep the weeds clean and stuff.
I did ask them to do that, and they said, well, they'll do their annual or twice a year cuttings. So we asked them to do it a little more, and I guess we could always go to code enforcement, but I don't know how conducive that would be either.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by council? I see none. That is, we have accomplished our mission. I declare this meeting adjourned. The next meeting will start sharply at 6:30.